Hey guys, welcome. Gabriel, can you hear me? I need to hear your audio also.
Hey, how are you? Can you hear me?
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. I'm on mute because I'm with Jenner, giving him some tips and tricks, and
No, no.
I'm doing it on a recording. I'm using my voice so he can
Go do
hear.
your thing. Go you do your thing. I just wanted to hear the audio because we're going to do a replay today.
Awesome. Let me know if you
All
need
right.
anything. I'm on the.
Very
I'm keeping eyes everywhere.
good afternoon, Real Estate Investing Mastermind. My name is Joe Irizarry. I'm the Business Development Director for Douglas Beck and his associated companies. And Real Estate Investing Mastermind was something he put together almost a year ago. It's blossomed. We share a lot of information, a lot of solid content. And today, what we're going to do is, since Douglas himself is not available, what we're going to do is we're going to do a replay of a power hour session. What is the power hour? Well, this is a session for our members only clients, basically. They get a power hour. It's a guest coach that comes in and talks about his expertise or her expertise. And we've had many over the year. And today we have someone that is local to New Jersey and at least was at one point. I think he still is. Billy Alvaro. This was a power hour session we had approximately a month ago. Extremely powerful. Listen to his story. He's a lot of fun as well. So Billy Alvaro is going to be live, and we're going to go to that right now. Let me just share a screen. Make sure I'm sharing sound. Make sure I'm doing this right. Go over here. Give me 1 second, and we'll go live. Thank you guys. Keep listening. If you have any questions, I'll monitor them and I'll put them together for Douglas or Billy, and I'll grab them and then we'll have to get back to you individually. I'll be happy to do that. So let's go to that right now.
What's up, Joe? Thanks for having me on. I know a lot about you guys, and he's doing some really good things. So having me on here is a blessing. But my backstory: I was a police officer. I was a bartender. I got into the mortgage industry by accident. I met an older gentleman who was a drug dealer, and he got me into the business. And I actually started doing the real estate, the mortgage business back in like 1998, 1999. Fast forward, I grew that mortgage business to over $1 billion a year. We had 950 employees. We were taking the company public. Bottom fell out. I'm leaving a lot of stuff out just to expedite it. So the bottom fell out of the mortgage industry. I ended up going bankrupt, and from almost $48 million a year in revenue to being $14 million a year in debt, $14 million in debt. And so I had to learn really quick on how to start over. And I went through a whole process, mentally, physically, spiritually. I was at my lowest level, got through it, had an awakening, woke up and said, I'm not going to give in. I'm going to fight. I fired all my attorneys. I bought a course online called Jurisdictionary, How to Represent Yourself in Court and Win. So, entrepreneur, I ended up just reading that thing, studying that thing, put an ad on Craigslist, found a paralegal to represent me. I fired all my attorneys, and I went to court for like 2.5, 3 years and just started fighting. As I was building my investment company, I have one half of my life where I'm fighting this 14 million. On the other side, I'm actually building up the investment company. Bottom line, it took me 6 years to get out of it. I'm grateful that I got out. I took the $14 million down to about 2.5. I couldn't shake the last 2.5, so I filed bankruptcy. In that time frame, I had one gentleman who I had a lot of money that I owed to personally, about $1 million. And so, I wanted to make sure he was paid. I did everything I could to pay him back his principal, no interest, but I paid him back his principal. And I think it was December 21st of 2012 is when I was finally out of bankruptcy and I was actually able to spread my wings again and start making things happen. So it was a crazy journey. But fast forward, now I'm in the real estate space, and I've been doing real estate full time since 2009, July 4th. That's the day I decided to get into this business full time. And from that day forward, look, when I started off, guys, I had no credit, I had no job, I had no income. I had $14 million in debt on my back. Like, I was at the lowest of low points. And I'm sharing that with you because if I could get myself out of that place and get restarted with literally nothing and build up a company to where we're doing, you know, $6.5, $7 million a year in revenue with a nice healthy margin, net profit margin. If I can do this, newbies that are coming in that are like, I have no experience, I can't talk to sellers, I don't know what I'm doing, they can break through that fear. Because look, Joe, you know as well as I know, this whole real estate business, there's no magic to it. It's a mindset. If you can get your head straight and you can break through and realize this whole real estate business is just no magic. Speaking with sellers, analyzing deals, and making offers. There's not a lot of magic.
Oh no.
If you have a personality, you learn how to connect with the sellers and you really get them to know, like, and trust you, and you really connect on a deeper level, you're going to convert a lot more. But the fear thing, I found that people are like deers in the headlights. They get themselves stuck. They don't take action. They then blame it on either their coach or their life or their situation, but they have to look in the friggin' mirror and take responsibility for what they're doing, or better yet, what they're not doing, because it's most likely what they're not friggin' doing, and they're not acting, they're not executing, they're not making offers, they're not going out and running comps, they're not meeting with sellers, they're not marketing. And so all those things just narrow down to they're not making business happen. They get discouraged, they end up exiting. You guys are doing a great job. You just brought up Jasmine, who's been with you guys, you know, few weeks, few months. She's already got her first deal going. Like, that's saying that she's taking action. So whatever you guys are doing on the coaching end, kudos to you, because it's working. But there's a lot of people out there who want to be in this space. Like, anywhere you go, Joe, right? Anywhere you go, people that are in this industry, they talk about it. Everybody wants to flip properties. Everybody wants to be a landlord because real estate's sexy. But when they get down to it, the fear is holding them back.
No doubt about it.
Yep.
So your core target, your core exit strategy, is it still fix and flip?
No, I mean, so over the last probably 3 years, we've changed it quite a bit. So we do a lot of wholesaling, shit ton of wholesale. We have right now 38 properties on the renovation side. We bring down about 17 to 21 properties a month, contract wise.
Right.
And our exit strategies, we have a waterfall effect, right? So when a deal comes in, we always pitch cash first with the disposition of either rehab, wholesale, hotel, or as a rental. But over the last couple of years, with the competitiveness and the fact that the sheer market is really, it's contracting. There's not a lot of inventory out there. The fact that the sheer market, we're spending really double the amount in marketing. Not a lot of about $120,000 a month in marketing. And we're getting just as many leads as we did 3 years ago when we were spending $55,000.
Can you break down what kind of marketing you're doing?
Yeah, so we're doing a ton of direct mail, 120 to 140,000 mail pieces a month for direct mail, very specific and targeted. We're doing a shit ton of pay-per-click Google. We're doing Facebook. We have a telemarketing department that does outbound calls. We have a texting department that does outbound texting. We have door knockers. We have a referral process. We're doing, I'll tell you what doesn't work for us. And so, like, here's the thing with marketing, Joe. Marketing works, period. But you just have to figure out what works for your target audience in the market that you're in. So, like, I have friends that are crushing it with TV, knocking it out of the ballpark. They're putting out $30,000, $35,000 a month in TV, and they're getting a 5, 7, 8 time return on their TV spend. I tried TV in New York and New Jersey, in northern New Jersey and Long Island, couldn't get the TV to work for us. Like, tried it, tweaked it, did everything we could, and we just realized the market that we're in, we would have to spend way too much money to try to get the phones ring. I'm not putting out $150,000 a month on one marketing channel.
Of course.
So I scrapped it.
It's the medium capital of the world. You're going to spend more money on media. Where were your friends? Don't lose your train of thought, but where were your friends doing their TV marketing?
So it's working for people down in Nashville. It's working for people in Texas. It's working for people in Miami. It's working for people in Dallas, Texas. It's working in certain geographic areas, but I had 3 different companies that we've worked with over like a 4-year time frame, thinking that it was maybe them on the marketing end. And they said, New York, Long Island, unless you go on cable, if you're going on the networks, rather, if you're going on the networks and you're hitting then New Jersey, Long Island, New York, and Connecticut, you'll get the phones to ring, but the cost is going to be so freaking expensive. And when you're doing marketing on TV, you're casting a wide net, a very big net to go try to get those callers in. So we realized that doesn't work. But here's the point is, when you're marketing in whatever geographic area you're in, and your coach is telling you try direct marketing, direct mail, or try texting, or do cold calling, and you're like, it doesn't work, you got to try to really test to see if it's you, or if it's the marketing that you're putting out, the message, or if it's actually just the area they're not receptive. But you can't quit. You can't say marketing doesn't work. It's that one medium is not working. Marketing works. Marketing is the lifeblood of any business, especially this business. When I had my mortgage company, 1,000 mortgages a month we were doing. How? From marketing. I'm a marketer. I'm just happen to be marketing real estate right now. 10 years ago, 14 years ago, I was marketing mortgages, right? Marketing is the lifeblood. Whether you're doing direct marketing out or you're doing referral marketing where you're out there and you're spending little money, but a lot of time networking, getting people to know you, getting referrals from attorneys, financial planners, divorce attorneys, whoever.
That's gold, what you just said, and we've preached it many times. It's nurturing the relationships you have and the ones you don't have, like you just said, attorneys, accountants, anyone involved in real estate or could be involved in a real estate investing transaction. You need to know them and actually nurture it. And it doesn't hurt that you have a big personality. And I was going to ask you, were you a cop? And sure enough, you said you were a police officer. So
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Manhattan. I was like, that's a cop.
Yeah, I did it for a very short amount of time.
Ah,
I have a lot of respect for the police officers. They put their ass on the line all the time, but
indeed.
my calling was not to be a police officer. Like, I did it. I tried it. My family thought I was absolutely freaking nuts. They're like, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to bartend until I figure my life out. And I was bartending. I was slinging drinks. But the bartending, connecting with people, being behind that bar and just doing this, mixing it up with people, getting them to know, like, and trust you, understanding the psychology of individuals, how to work certain individuals to get a larger tip. Certain people like to be spoken to in a certain way. So you're not being fake, but you need to be somewhat of a chameleon, right? You're always going to be true to your nature. You're going to have your true values that never going to change. But I'm not going to speak to a person who has a timid personality the way I'm speaking to you guys right now. I'm coming across as the genuine me. This is who I am. When I'm speaking to somebody, an older person, maybe that's down south, I'm going to slow down my tonality. I'm going to really connect with her on a different level. I'm going to be really specific and clear when I speak to her. I'm going to be calming because that's what is going to connect with her. If I'm speaking with a dude who's a type A personality, CEO, I know he wants to win. So I have to speak with him like this, but I also need to give him a winning position because if I win, he's going to think he's losing. So I have to structure deals where I'm making them think they win. And when they win, you get the deal because it's all about ego with them.
No doubt. KLT and chameleon, my two biggest takeaways right there. Lived my entire life like that as well. I've been in entertainment my entire life, and you gotta be a chameleon. But Douglas preaches it all the time: know, like, and trust. So yeah, if you have to be a chameleon, then that's what you have to be. I would love at this point to give an opportunity to Joe Gazzardi, who's making some beautiful things happen. DeMarley's our staff member. Jasmine, of course. Wendy's up in Canada, making things happen. And of course, Kevin, I introduced you to right at the top. If you have any questions, you have someone here that's very experienced. This is a great opportunity to ask what you want to ask.
Anything, Joe, anything I could do to help you guys out, any questions at all, I'm an open book. I've started from nothing. I grew to have a billion-dollar mortgage bank, lost it, grew it back. We're doing over 200 deals a year now. I'm not the absolute best of the best, but I know what the hell I'm doing. I've had a lot of scars, a lot of wartime fucking stories I can go through where I've learned. And you only really learn, I think, when you fail and fail miserably. If you could fail hard and then pick yourself back up and learn from that experience and then keep going forward, by the time you're 10 years in this industry, 14 years, 15 years in, you just have so much experience and knowledge that there's really nothing that can come your way that's going to knock you down. And if it does, get back up and keep going.
Exactly. Experience, knowledge, and thick skin. Let's bring Wendy. Wendy has a question. Come on up, Wendy.
Okay. There was a storage unit here that I looked at, and I decided I didn't want it. But I know another gentleman who is starting to get into storage units. And so I'm going to send the deal to him. It's selling for $1 million. And like, what kind of a fee would I ask on $1 million?
Well, it's not really the fee on the $1 million. It's really how much value is in that deal that the end buyer is going to pull out. right? It's just like doing a wholesale deal, right? If
Yeah.
you're selling on the single family side and you're selling a $400,000 house to an end buyer or to an investor, are you going to charge them $5,000, 15 grand, or 40 grand? It really depends on how good of a deal it is on your end, right? So
Okay.
I can't answer that question without knowing specifics like the cap rate, what they're going for in the area. Is there a value play? You're going to have to go in and increase the rents. Like, what's the play to the end user, the buyer? But look, what are you comfortable with? Do you think you could pull out a $30,000 fee on this deal? A $40,000 fee? You analyzed it.
Yeah, that's really helpful because I had no idea, but that makes sense.
Cool. Cool, Wendy.
Awesome.
Where's that storage facility located?
Where is it? It's
Yeah.
in Black's Harbor, New Brunswick. We're
Okay.
I live on an island. Well, but they're not an island. We're just north of Maine.
Beautiful. Okay, so you're way the hell up there.
Yeah.
All the way the hell up. Love it. I love it. Well, listen, keep hustling, keep doing your thing. Deal finders and making deals happen are fantastic. So if you can make some money in that deal, by all means, you deserve it. Finding the deal is one of the hardest things to do in this industry. It's getting the deal. When you get the deal, you should be paid when you sell it off to somebody else. So make sure, I don't know if you have a relationship with this guy, but make sure you get some sort of a document, finder's fee agreement up front, non-circumvent up front, that making sure that you're going to get paid.
Yes. Okay. Good.
Awesome. Kevin, let's bring Kevin up. He has a question.
Hey guys, hey Billy, great to meet you.
You too,
I'm up
Kev.
in Northern Bergen County, by the way.
Ah, fantastic. We should hook up with coffee.
We should. Where are you?
I'm down in Marlboro.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know it well. So Wendy, but wouldn't Wendy? Well, I don't know what the laws are up in a whole, another different country. I would assume they're similar to our laws, where you could not earn a fee unless you were a real estate agent. Like you couldn't just like sell it to him. So I'm assuming similar to what we have here. But you could put it under contract, and if you can get the seller to give you a deep enough discount, and you can get your buyer to give you more, well, you just did a wholesale deal.
Yeah, I think we can do the selling thing, but I'm not, that's a good point because I'm not 100% sure. And this guy's had a number of deals fall through because of financing. So now he's wanting proof of funds up front.
Is he willing to do seller financing?
I don't know.
Why not structure it? If he's having a hard time with financing, that deal is ripe for seller financing. Get creative. You can make that deal yourself. If he's willing to hold a note and hold paper on that deal, and let's just say, I don't know what the numbers are. You said $1 million. I don't know what the cash flow looks like, but if this deal works, if he's willing to hold like an $800,000 note on the property, I'm sure you could then go out and raise $200,000 as some sort of a little joint venture with some investor friends that you have. If the deal makes sense. If this guy is losing buyers, he's ripe for a seller finance deal.
Oh, okay.
And he's going to say, well, why should I do it seller financing? And you're going to say, well, how are you with your taxes? Because if you sell it for 800,000, you may have to pay your taxes on $800,000 worth of income if you own it free and clear.
Yeah.
And if you carry back a note, you could pay it like a monthly income thing. And also, most people don't know this about notes. And again, I don't know, in Canada, I don't know, but most people don't know that you have a valuable asset and you could take that asset and bring it to the bank and maybe get a loan against that if he ever really needed cash. Of course, he could sell the note too. That's easy, right? You could sell it. But yeah, he could use it. It's called a hypothecation at a bank. So that's something to think about. It's like an extra thing that most people don't know when you're trying to get.
Kevin, I've never heard that word before in my life. What is it called?
Hypothecation. It's a banking term. I'm
Got
not
it.
a banker.
Okay.
It's a very creative way to get money off that deal on the seller for him to get cash off that deal.
Okay.
Kevin, do you have another question? Or well, that was more of a statement.
Yeah, that was more. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm good.
I'm expecting Jasmine to pop in here. I want to hear about her latest deal.
I have a question.
Bring it, girl.
So hi Billy, nice to meet you.
You too, Jasmine.
So what would you recommend? I know getting a deal, like you can't do anything if you don't have a deal. So somebody fairly like starting out, like what would you recommend is the best way to get deal flow? And if you don't have a lot of money to spend
That was going to be my
at the
first
beginning.
question. All right. So my first question is, do you have money or do you have time or do you have both? So do you have, if you have not a lot of money, do you have time?
Yeah, not a lot of time, but yes, I could make some time.
Okay. So when I first started, I had no money at all. I was $14 million in debt. So how in the hell was I able to go out there and start generating income? So what I did is I got creative. I said, all right, I have a car and I have a cell phone. So I literally drove for dollars during the day as I was going to court and dealing with my attorneys and dealing with, unwinding of this business. Every time I go through a neighborhood, I would take down addresses. Now today, you don't even have to drive for dollars. So you can get Deal Machine. You can do virtual driving on Deal Machine in any neighborhood in America. And you guys could figure out and look to see what properties are good to pull down. So I would find dilapidated properties, properties that were vacant, properties that have distress signs visually, if I don't have the money to market to them. And then I would get it. I would get that list, create it. I would skip trace those names. And then at night from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, I would cold call. And I'm telling you, if you do this consistently, you guys are going to get deals. It's a numbers game. It's just a matter of time. You're going to get hung up on. You're going to get people to tell you to lose my effing number. I'm going to sue you. I'm on the do not call list. Great, sir. Won't call you back again. And then you call from a different number 2 days later, because that's how you're going to make money.
So the virtual driving, I mean, I heard some of this information already, but like, are you just talking about just go through Google, or there's actually apps?
There's an app, Deal Machine. So Jasmine, let me tell you this, because you're new. I know you're going to hear things. You're going to make money when you start executing on things.
Yeah.
You're going to hear a lot of shit. You're going to hear a lot of good shit. But if it goes in your head and you start questioning how, everybody on this call, you're going to get yourself into a situation where you're not going to take action because you're always going to be trying to figure out what to do. How you learn to do anything is by doing it. Not having the blueprint, not having all the answers. You can have somewhat of a foundation and framework, but you're only going to learn when you do. You're going to pick up the phone and call and be like, holy shit, I just got my ass ringed out. I used to knock on doors. I would pull over and I still, every once in a while, just for shits and giggles, I'll be in the car with my girl and she's like, that's the left. That house is in distress. I'm like, pull over, videotape me, just for shits and giggles, so I could post it, so I could show people that what I'm doing is real. Like, you see a house that looks like crap and there's a car in the driveway, pull over and knock on the door. And don't get aggressive with the guy and act like you want to buy his house. Just say, hey, my name is Jasmine. I'm in the area. I'm actually looking to buy a property area. Would you happen to know anybody who's looking to sell? And then see what he says. He's not going to say yes. He's not going to say no. He's going to say whatever comes to his freaking mind, but you're not going to know until you die, until you get out of the car and start knocking on doors. You're not going to know until you pick up the phone and start calling. So you heard about driving for dollars. You heard about the virtual side of driving dollars. After you get off this call, I want you to execute on driving for dollars virtually. You, your daughter, your friend, whoever it is, get involved and start making some calls and start making some money.
What about, I mean, I've heard it, I've seen videos, the whole this part of it, I think it's that first making that call. Like making those calls. But what about when you do get somebody that's interested? Then I mean, what about them?
So then you'll have a script. So you're going to go on Google, and I'm sure they have it in their course 100%, how to interview and talk with a seller. You don't, you guys have that, Joe, right? How to talk with a seller?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So you're going to get in their portal, how to talk with a seller, how to interview it, and you're just going to stumble. You're going to mumble. What I used to tell my guys when I was training them is when you have deals that come in, we're doing a lot of marketing, and all the new guys that come in like, this deal's dead. Perfect. When you have a dead deal, you can say or do anything because the deal's dead no matter what. You want to go out and actually start presenting offers, even on dead deals. Now, some people are going to reject me and say, that's crazy. Why would you waste their time? Because Jasmine, the more times you get up at bat, the more times you get rejected, the thicker your skin is going to get, and the easier it's going to be for you to start talking with people. I'm telling you, the only way to get that done is you got to get up at bat. If you're like, I'm going to make a couple of phone calls tonight, you make 2 or 3 phone calls, it's going to take you a couple of years to get there. But if you rip through phone calls on a nightly basis, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80 calls, you're going to start getting good. You're going to start understanding the language, the verbal cues over the phone. You're going to start understanding the psychology of how people are talking. You're going to start testing certain opening lines. If you call somebody, Jasmine, you're like, hi, is this Mr. Brown? You're done. You're a telemarketer. So you have to come up with something a little bit unique. Hey, is it Bob? Bob, it's Jasmine. Who? It's Jasmine. Bob, I drove by your property 3 days ago out of the blue. I know this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but would you be in the market to selling? How'd you get my number? You know what? I have no idea how it was. I Googled it. I'm on Google, and then you just start the conversation. Don't be afraid. Fear, I could see it. It's going to hold you back. But if you break through this, you're going to make a shit ton of money and become very wealthy. You're going to make a shit ton of money.
Exciting to hear. And she has some success already, but she still has those fears, which a lot of people do. I totally get it.
I know. I need to get my own deal flow. That's the thing. So I'm like, okay, I need to do this. My sister's interested also. So we've been talking about just doing it together. Like you said, get somebody else. So
here's one of the things too, right? And this is just when you're starting a business, there's two different types of personalities. You have an operator who's more thinker, strategic, operational side. And then you have the innovator or the guy who's a little bit more like me, where they're more outgoing and they're more talkative. So if people are listening to this and they have more of the operational type personality, partner up with somebody. Find somebody that you guys can do deals with where they might not be good at organizing and making shit happen in the office, but they're really good with speaking with people. But after they speak to them, they don't know what the hell to do because they're not organized. If you have the organized personality and you just can't break through, you can. But if you're thinking you can't, find somebody that you can JV with. I wouldn't recommend taking in a full-blown partner in your business, but you could take in a joint venture partner where they have their corporation, you have yours, and you just start doing deal splits.
No doubt about
Hope
it.
that
We absolutely preach collaboration within the group. So, Billy, let's talk about some of your recent deals that maybe weren't too complicated, were kind of like fairly easy.
Well, I mean, Joe, I'm not on the front lines, right? So my guys, I have a team right now of 25 people that buy on my behalf and operations and everything else. So I'm not like in the trenches every single day doing deals. The deal comes to my desk, there's a lot of hair on it. I get involved when it's like, how do we make this deal happen? How do we underwrite it? How do we talk with the seller because he's going sideways? It's like just an hour ago, before I got on the phone with you guys, my sales manager who's heading out to California, he usually handles a lot of this shit for me. He's going away. Have a deal down here in South Jersey. The guy, we did it. We were taking it down as a buy and fix and flip. We had a rehab manager go in. The numbers don't work. We have to renegotiate with the guy. And all I did is I got on the phone and I pitched him two different things, right? I pitched him doing a subject to seller finance deal. So it's almost like a hybrid type deal. And then I pitched him as a joint venture equity split. Now we're doing on average 2 joint venture equity splits a month. It's and also the subject twos and the seller finance, we're cranking them with those, and we're doing a lot of novations. I don't know if you guys are familiar with these, but joint venture equity splits, extremely profitable because you can in essence become a partner with the seller of the property. They have a house that, you know, they want, let's just call it $450,000. You're not able to offer him $450 cash. You're able to offer him like $400 cash. But if you do a joint venture equity split where he remains owner of the property, you put it into a trust, he makes the monthly payments on the property, they move out, or it's either vacant, it's a second home, or they have another place they're moving to, or you even give him an advance to move into his new place. Perfect point is, you come in, you take ownership of the property just on, not on paper, just to come in and renovate it. You renovate, you do everything, you turn around, you sell it. We worked it out where the seller of this property was guaranteed to get the first $420,000 on the property. We worked it out so anything over $499,000, we're going to split 50-50. We're going in, we're only doing a $12,000 renovation of this house. It's nothing. Wow. We'll make $35,000. The seller's going to make his $420. Anything over $499, we split 50-50. We have a chance on this one to make about 50 grand. Now, this was a dead deal, right? So when you're looking at deals, and this is something collaboration, I know you guys speak about, Joe, when you have deals that you're going through, if your cash offer doesn't work and you don't know what to do with it, but you have a motivated seller, and that's the key thing, somebody who wants to sell, partner up with somebody who understands seller finance. Partner up with somebody who understands joint ventures. Partner up with somebody who understands subject twos. We do a lot of these creative things. The only way we're able to beat out our competition right now, because we all know the market's contracting. There's not a lot of inventory in the market. Rates have gone up where we all thought maybe the values would come down, but the values are consistently going up in certain areas because there's no freaking inventory. So we're fighting in a really small pool to get deals in. In order for us to compete against our competitors and win, we have to be extremely sharp. We have to know what the hell we're doing. We have to get the people to know, like, and trust us. We have to separate ourselves from the competition, and we need to be fucking, I'm sorry, I cursed. We need to be fucking creative. Like, super, super creative. And I got to tell you guys, we are not the highest bidder on these properties. I had a conversation. We had our operations meeting this morning. Every Wednesday we have it from 9:45 until 12 o'clock. And this morning we went over one of the deals. We had this is a $90,000 profit deal on a novation that the buyers had other offers that were $30,000 higher than us for cash. And they did the deal with us simply because of the way we stood out with the sellers. We got the property for a lower amount and we're making $90,000 on it on a novation deal because of the way we presented. This lady's like, Carlos was the best. I never spoke with a guy like this before. I felt extremely comfortable. Every other person that came to my house was like a used car salesman. We don't go in like used car salesmen. We go in and we model the people we're speaking with. So they all went in with this personality. They're all, salesy and whatnot. No, when Carlos went in, he knew exactly who he was speaking to, and he calmed himself down and connected with her on the deepest level, got her to know, like, and trust him. The offer was not what she wanted, but because she had that affinity with him, she's like, I feel comfortable. I trust you. I trust your business. I see your Google reviews. I want you guys to handle this for me. There's no magic in it, but yet again, there is a lot of magic in it.
Sure.
It's
You
not easy.
you absolutely identified with the seller. They were so totally okay with making less because they felt you had their best interest in mind.
100%.
We're going to bring up Joe Gazzardi, who's having a lot of success, and I think he reached out to you earlier today. He said,
He did.
It's all yours, Joe.
He's got the same last name as my future wife.
Awesome.
Gazzardi's.
Too funny. What's up, Billy? Couple questions specific to wholesaling. Two things I'm coming across struggling with a little bit now is pulling out the motivation from the actual seller. So pretty successful with building rapport with the seller. We're having good conversations, but just trying to really nail down what exactly their motivation is. And maybe it's just a seller that maybe they don't have, some motivation, but any ideas or any quick lines or tips on pulling out motivation from a particular seller?
So there's no real tricks. It really just comes down to when you're building that rapport, getting them to really open up. And I think when you get them on the KLT, the know, like, and trust on a deep level, they start to open up. I'm going to give you an example. So 2 weeks ago, we had a guy that my sales manager said, this deal, it's dead. There's nothing we can do with it. He has no motivation. He's asking for a lot of money and the deal's not going to go anywhere. But Nicole, who lives with me, right? She's like my wife, for Christ's sake. She's learning from me from osmosis. Like, she's around me so much for the last 7 years that she hears the way I speak with people. She hears the way I identify and could pick up certain things. So she's like a mini me now. She's able to pick things up that other people aren't able to pick up just because I've been doing this for so long. She heard him on the phone say something about Medicaid. He owns the property, but his mother's involved and there's Medicaid. She's like, I think we can do something. So I got on the phone with him and I just started picking his brain, and he had no real motivation, except he did. And he wasn't telling anybody. His motivation, he wasn't in foreclosure. He had a house that was rented out. He was making great money on it. Tenants were paying on time. House was in great shape. Once I started getting him on a deeper level, all of a sudden it stopped. And I realized that Medicaid is going to take 50%, because him and his mom own the property together. They're going to take 50% of whatever he sells the property for. So I simply said to him, God, I think his name is Joe, by the way. I said, Joe, it's horrible. I go, so if there was a way, I don't know if there is, but if there was a way for you to actually minimize the amount you were paying Medicaid, would that be something you'd be interested in? And he's like, of course. That's the motivation. His motivation was the greed gland. So once I knew his true motivation and what his real problem was, I knew what the motivation was. The motivation on that one was money. How did I make that deal happen? we pitched him buying it. We bought it subject to, paid it off at a reasonable number, got his mom's Medicaid paid off, paid them very little money, and then had him come in as a joint venture equity partner, investing back into that deal after the deed was out of their name. Now him and I are going to do the deal together. We're going to split the profits 60-40. I gave him 60, us 40, because I wanted to make it sweeter for the deal. That deal never would have got done if I didn't listen and just hear. You have to almost read between the lines with people, because if there's no motivation, Joe, there's no motivation. You can't sell somebody, you can't create motivation. But if you ask enough questions, if you read between the lines, I'm going to give you another example. There was a guy, and I've told this story a bunch of times. There was a deal that I did that I had an offer on back in Long Island. It's a 24-unit building. The deal was brought to me from a real estate friend. Real estate friends that I have this deal. It's a cash flowing cow. This thing could be a monster property for us. He wants $850,000. My numbers said the max I could pay was $450 because the place was in disarray. It needed a lot of work. I went, 6 months passed by. He gets it in the contract. 9 months passes by. He gets this deal in the contract with somebody else. They're fighting back and forth, suing each other because there's violations on the property. The seller doesn't want to pay for the violations. The buyer wants a credit. Big ordeal. The deal falls apart. So I thought his true motivation was he wanted to sell this property because of the violations. Michael calls me up. I go meet this guy in his office. We're sitting there. I'm in there for 3 hours. Now, this is a business person who owns a company. I'm not going to say the name, but it's something.com. Very well established, making millions of dollars a year. Came here from India with nothing. And the guy just is self-made. So smart individual, not somebody who's in, having issues. He just has a certain situation. At first, I thought it was the violations that he wanted solved. After sitting there for 3 hours, I come to find out his real true issue, which he did not disclose until 3 hours in, is that he has a personal tax liability to the IRS for his business that was making millions of dollars. He had to come up with a very quick $1 million payment in order to pay this off. Once I heard that, I knew what I had. I knew what I could do with this guy, and I knew how I could solve his problem. I could solve his problem with the real estate. I could solve his problem with the violations, but more importantly, I could solve his problem with the $1 million issue he was having with the IRS. Because I asked him about his tax basis on the property and what he bought it for and what he put into it. Bottom line, he wanted me to buy it for $450. I ended up getting that 24 unit and the 6 unit next door for $75,000 combined, both properties. I offered him 50. We ended up doing it for 75,000 or 55,000. He went up for 10. It was one of those, but a ridiculously low number. Why? Because I said to him, if you sell this property at this major loss, I'm not a tax accountant, I'm not an attorney, but I'm telling you, you're going to be able to write off every friggin' dollar on this loss, which is going to offset your IRS claim. You're going to be out of this thing with no money in your pocket. And he looked at me, threw me out of his office, called up his tax attorney, called the guys up, called me back in 20 minutes later and said, I'm not doing it. And this was like 8 years ago. So I'm forgetting the overall numbers, but I have it written out in a bunch of videos. It was either I bought it for $55,000 or $75,000, but the asset is like yielding us out $24,000 a month after it's all said and done. But I would have never got that property had I not spent the time there. I knew we had certain motivation because of the violation, but the real true way I bought that property for like a fraction of the number is I solved his biggest problem, which was the IRS. And I only got that information because I went in deep. I was patient. I knew there was a deal. I don't do this on every property. If I'm not going to sit and speak with somebody for 3 hours, on the surface, I know there's nothing going on, but when you know there's something there, you got to go in deep, man. You got to go in deep and you have to trench yourself in and just figure out what the real problem is, issue is, and then come up with a solution.
Cool. And then I guess my next question would be in terms of typical seller objections. Obviously, you're doing things at quite a bit of volume. What would you say are the most common that you would kind of work through or battle through?
I want more money. That's not enough. It always generally comes down to the biggest objection guys get is just they want more money. So you have to get creative on trying to figure out how you can make that happen for not giving them more money. What's the underlying true issue? And like I said, I'm not selling every single day. My guys are doing it every single day. So they're coming up with the objections all day long. What are some of the objections you're coming up with that you having a hard time with?
Well, truth be told, I've been having VA make most of my calls, and I'm just kind of doing the follow-ups at this point. Nothing too crazy. I mean, you bring up a good point. Most of it does come down to money. I haven't really, and I've only been going direct to seller now for literally like 2 to 3 weeks. A lot of the deals I've been doing have honestly just been relationships from other wholesalers where I'm buying them directly as the end buyer.
Yep.
So I haven't really encountered too many just yet. But I figured it'd be good to ask because I know I'm going to come across them at some point.
You're going to come across, is that the best you could do? I have to, the stalls are going to be, I have to talk to my, just, all right, I'll give you another example. Just an hour ago when I made the pitch to the guy to do the joint venture equity split, and I recorded the whole thing, I'm going to have it posted. At the end of it, he's like, and I had Kevin on the one line, I had the video thing going. He goes, I go, all right, so let's just get this going. He goes, well, let me just think about it. So you're going to get a lot of think about it. When they say, I want to think about it, it means that they have an underlying objection that you have not yet addressed. So I could have very easily done this job. We could be like, all right, think about it tonight, get back to me tomorrow. If I would have said that, that deal would have been dead because he would have talked to his brother, his sister, his aunt, his uncle, and they would have said, what are you, crazy? You don't want to do this deal. I said, Carlos, what is the underlying issue? What are the questions that I didn't answer? Because it sounds like there's something there. So I want to make sure I address everything with you to make sure you have all the information so that you can make the decision the right way tonight when you're thinking about this, knowing that I'm going to close him now. And he simply said to me, how do I know this is actually going to get done? 2 questions. How do I know this is actually going to get done? It sounds too good to be true. And how am I going to guarantee that you're going to make my mortgage payments? Because we're going to make his mortgage payments so he doesn't have to do it. Once I had those 2 objections, I said, okay, so I repeated it back to him. I said, Carlos, is there anything else before I answer these? Is there anything else that is pressing that you're not understanding, that you may be, thinking about that I wasn't clear? He goes, no, that's just those 2. I identified them. I isolated them. I hit each one by one. Once I went back, he understood. I had him repeat it back to me. I gave him the answer. I go, Carlos, do you feel 100% comfortable in this one? I do. Let's go on to the next one. How am I going to make the payments? Went back and forth, address it. At the end of that, I go, I didn't even think like we're going to wait till tomorrow. I go, Carlos, I told you about the attorneys. We're going to get the attorneys on the phone. We're going to get the next step is we're going to get the joint ventures done, get this all written up. Tomorrow, you're going to have in your inbox, Kevin's actually going to drive down it because you said you don't want to sign virtually. So what time is good for you to have Kevin go down it tomorrow? 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock? Kev, what time are you going to be there? I'm already assuming I'm pushing this deal forward. I'm not waiting for him to give me an objection to say, no, I don't want to do it. 3 o'clock would be good. Perfect. Here's what I want you to do next. I gave him the list, went over it. He repeated it back to me. I go, Kevin's going to hit you tonight. He's going to CC you with the attorneys. We're going to make this deal happen tomorrow. We're going to get it done. And then I future paste him. I go, you're going to have $15,000 in your pocket by the beginning of next week so you can restart your life. You're going to have that new place. How are you going to feel when you get into that new apartment? Oh, I can't wait. So I'm future pacing him to get him to buy into this whole solution. The guy's hooked. That's it. The guy is, and I'm not selling him. I'm giving him something that he needs and deserves, freedom from what he's dealing with his house. Got divorced, DWI, lost his license, lost his job, just dealing with a bunch of bullshit. Can't sell a property. Solved a major problem, but I did so many little things in that phone call for 40 minutes that I just wrapped him up, gave him exactly what he was looking for. Not exact, but almost. And then we just moved on to the next deal.
Awesome. Cool. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Phil, you said
Fired up
future
when I
what?
told people. All fired up and shit.
Phil, you said
Those are
future
the best sales tactics I've heard in a long time. And I do sales. I mean, I do sales for the Growth Collective, and I've done sales my entire life as a radio DJ. You're constantly selling. So I've done that. But one thing that really stands out is assume the close. You're already assuming. That's how it's part of your speech already. You did mention one thing I didn't catch. Future pacing, was it?
So future pace, you want to get people, when you're putting them into a better situation, you want to future pace them to actually see themselves with the money in their hands, see themselves in that new apartment, and also have their problems behind them. So you're pulling them forward into the future, into the goodness, and you're putting that past, that ugly past behind them. And when you can connect that and they see it, they connect. It's almost like they're in a hypnotic state. They'll just be like, yeah, I do want to get this done, Billy. I can't wait. 10 minutes ago, he's like, let me think about it. 10 minutes later, because I identified the issues, overcome the objections, address them, and then future pace them. This guy was like silly putty in my hands. Like, all right, when are we going to close? When can I get my 15?
Exactly. It's like you're leading them on as well with an actual nod too,
Of
which is
course.
it comes naturally actually for me and for you for sure. Billy, I wanted to ask you about one thing. Subject to is like one of the most important, I think, um, trends, strategies happening right now. Can you break down maybe one of the company's most recent subject to deals, how it actually worked, what the actual subject to actually means to
All
some
right, let
people
me,
that still don't understand it?
okay, so basically subject to is when you have instead of us coming in with new financing, you're basically, excuse me, you're basically taking over the seller's financing. You're taking the deed into your name, but the debt is going to remain on the seller's credit report. So there's like multiple things you have to address, right? Multiple different issues that the seller's thinking or maybe not be thinking. So whenever I'm pitching a seller finance or I'm pitching a sub two type deal, I'll explain it to them. I'll have them understand, repeat it back to me. And then when I think they get it, I'm going to say, okay, here's some of the questions that if I was in your situation that I should be asking, right? And I go through those questions. One of the questions is, Billy, if you get hit by a car and you don't pay my mortgage, what's going to happen? Because I have the debt, meaning they have the debt, you have the deed. And I tell them that's a great question. This is what we're going to do. We're going to put a clause in your deed that if we miss a payment, one payment, that deed is going to revert back to you. And I could tell you, Joe, that I'm never going to miss a payment because I'm bringing you current. You're behind 30 grand. I'm going to be putting probably $15,000 to $20,000 of renovation costs into your property. The last thing I'm going to do is have $65,000 of my money invested where I don't make your monthly payment. You have me by the short hairs because I'm going to do whatever needs to get done to make sure that mortgage gets paid. That's one thing. And if I don't pay you, it's going to revert right back to you. You'll have some people who come back and say, I am just not comfortable at all having a deed in your name where you have the legal ownership and I have the debt in my name. So how do you overcome that one? Simple. And I don't start with this, but if you hear the objection, you can't overcome the objection. How do you solve it? We then go in and we say, you know what, Joe, I get it. Some people aren't 100% comfortable. Right now, you don't know me enough to trust me enough to understand that I'm not going to hurt you because this is my life in the line. All we do is invest and invest the right way. So what we could do is we could do what's called a contract for deed, where the deed actually stays in your name. We have a contract with you to buy that property. And until we perform and either pay the mortgage off or get a refinance or other cash, the deed stays in your name, but I get all the benefits of the property. Now, one of the things we have to be concerned about as investors when you do a contract for deed, you really can't leave the deed in their specific personal name. Why is that? I want to have a question. I want somebody to tell me why. Besides you,
an LLC. Oh, that's right. And besides Kevin.
and why would we not want to keep the deed in the seller's name? But we have to do something so it's not in our name. Why do we not want to keep it in the seller's name? Anybody?
Consumer protection laws.
What do you mean?
Well, they could always, of course, just become a squatter in the house. And he
No,
has-
this is, you're taking possession of the property, subject to, you're buying the property, but the deed is going to remain in their name. How are we at risk if we buy the property as a contract for deed, but the deed stays in their name? I'll tell you.
You have no,
If they get judgments or a car accident or something happens and they get sued, that monetary judgment is going to attach to them and their property. So you're putting yourself in a weak position. So how do we solve that? We solve that by putting the house into a land trust or into some sort of a trust, depending on what state you're in. The trust is owned by them, but the trust securitizes, it actually protects the asset. If they get into a car accident, somebody sues them, they don't pay their credit cards and it gets them personally, it doesn't attach to the property because the asset's no longer in their personal name, it's in a trust. It's in the trust. And we don't have anything to do with the trust in a contract for deed. There's other things we do with trust that we get really creative, but I don't want to, that's not for this particular one. But when you're doing a contract for deed, you're going to take that deed, put it into a trust, and you're not going to say this to them in the beginning because it's just going to confuse them. Right. We could do a contract for deed, no problem. The deed can stay in your particular name. Once you get them to agree, and then you start doing the paperwork, you're going to say, hey, for asset protection reasons, you know, all those judgments that people have where they get attached. Oh yeah, my brother-in-law had one, it got attached to the house. Great. You get what I'm saying? So what we have to do to protect you and us is we have to create a trust for you that you're going to own. Your kid's going to be the beneficiaries. You could be the trustee. What that's going to do is it's going to insulate the asset that we're buying to ensure that, God forbid, something should happen to you and you get into an accident or you don't pay your credit cards, which I see you paying your credit cards, but if you don't, something happens, they're not going to be able to attach the asset. Boom, you just solve that issue. So every time they come up with something, you have a rebuttal back. Now, if you guys are brand new and you're Jasmine or you're Wendy or whoever, and you know, Kev, you seem to have a lot of experience, but if you guys are newer and you have a deal that's motivated and you're like, how in the hell am I going to remember how to say all this? I don't know what to do. Partner up with somebody. Like I partner up in JV with people all the time, man. Like all the time. I have deals, people that are in the field, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, a bunch of different states, Pennsylvania, where they're like, yo, Billy, I got this lead. I got this deal. I made them the pitch for cash. It's not working, but there's something here. All right, great. Let's go over it. All right, awesome. Let's get them on the phone. All right, let me pitch it. Let's sell it. Let me sell this thing and let's do a joint venture on it. And it's like everybody freaking wins. You know, when you're first starting in this business, Joe, you can't be the master of everything. You have to, for me, you have to focus. Like a lot of people get themselves, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent, but a lot of people get themselves in trouble real estate investing, and they really never do anything great. Besides the fear thing is the other thing that comes into play, which everybody is amazed by the red shiny object. So I want to do lease options. I want to do apartment buildings. I want to do subject to. I want to do, you know, whatever the hell it is. Whatever, any type of real estate, they all get super excited. And instead of them becoming a master at one thing, they start trying to do everything, and they do everything, but nothing gets done. They're learning it all, but nothing ever happens. Focus, take it or leave it. When I started this business, I focused on one thing, and that was short sales and REOs, and I fucking mastered them. And then from short sales and REOs, I figured out how could I wholesale? How could I start doing options? But it was only after I started mastering one thing and making money, then I started learning other shit. But in the early stages, which I'm gonna tell you right now, disclose to you, I was that guy. I was trying to learn it all, and I'm like, I can't do this. It's fucking impossible. You need to just focus your energies on one thing, master it, make money with it. If you have other leads that come in, JV with other people. I'd rather make 50% of something than 100% of nothing. And I don't want to be that guy who's trying to learn it all. All I'm doing is learning, and I'm not executing, because then what happens? You make no freaking money, you get burnt out. You're like, this stuff doesn't work.
Exactly. No, you nailed it. It's just like learning everything in real estate. You learn everything usually in one shot, and you try to figure out each one as opposed to focusing on one. Same thing happens with areas, at least in the beginning when you're starting. Find one area and learn that area. Don't learn 5,000 neighborhoods, because you're just going to be too scattered.
You nailed it, Joe. You nailed it. I got people that they're starting to invest in New Jersey and they can't get a deal in New Jersey. So 3 months later, they're investing in North Carolina, and 2 months after that, they're in Texas. And I'm like, dude, you're going about it all wrong. You're all over the place. You're scatterbrained. Red shiny object, scatterbrained, and fear. Those three things they're gonna just put you in your spot. You're not gonna be able to produce unless you overcome those three. And they're very easy to overcome. You have to accept it. You have to acknowledge it, accept it, and be like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to stand for it. I'm going to fuck up. I'm going to fail. I'm going to take action. I'm not going to be the guy who's scatterbrained, who goes all over the place. I'm going to focus. I'm going to start making money. If I have deals that come in, I'm going to be smart enough to joint venture with those people who are experts in that area. Then you're going to start seeing your net worth increase, your cash flow increase. Like everything is going to change when you start thinking and acting differently.
No doubt about it. Kevin, jump in with your question. I think we have just about enough time before our 5 o'clock session. Go ahead.
Right, just one more question. Billy, where do you, just today I was talking to a short sale guy, and he says he's starting to see an uptick in people in foreclosure. And so question to you, where do you see the market going for real estate investors?
Honestly, I don't have a magic ball. Every single area in the United States is completely different. When COVID hit, I got down, like I thought the whole world was going to collapse and the ceiling was going to fall. And like I was preparing for the worst because I lost that one business back when the crash happened. So I don't know. I'm being straight. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your ass, Kevin, and be like, oh, this is what I honestly don't know. What I see happening is that currently with the rates as high as they are in certain areas of the United States, in our area specifically, because inventory is so low, houses is still selling and selling at a high accelerated rate. And for above listing, I'm also seeing in our area, 55 and over communities are starting to become mushroomed with inventory. you're going to start seeing prices get suppressed down South Tom's River area. That's what I'm seeing. The data's telling me that. But like, I have friends that are doing this in Dallas and California and all across the United States. And back in March of last year, when rates started to go up, they got crushed. Like, we didn't feel it here in the Northeast. I have guys that got crushed. They lost $4 million, $5 million, $6 million, $8 million in a pipeline that they were renovating, that all of a sudden overnight, it was upside, they were decreased by 15, 20, 25% overnight. So this market's crazy. I don't want to be the last guy standing with musical chairs. So I'm really trying to not take on a ton of major, huge rehabs. I'm trying to sell those off as wholesale, or do, maybe do them as innovation, or just listen without doing any work to see if I can get another rehab buyer to come in. You got to watch your cash position. But Kev, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know where the hell this market's going to go. And I'm going to say it, it's going to be wrong. So who the hell knows?
With that said, Billy, why don't you give us some info? How do we communicate with you?
Absolutely. So you can go all social media channels. I'm known as the Unstoppable BA. I also have a podcast, Unstoppable REI Wealth, that you can find on iTunes and YouTube and everything else. And listen, you guys have deals, you want to joint venture, hit me. I know you guys are in a killer coaching group. I'm doing a coaching meeting, I think in November is when my next one's going to start. So it's going to be focused on making deals happen, making money, and joint venturing. So if you guys are interested in that, look me up on social media, and we could see if it's a good fit for you.
And the podcast, it's Unstoppable
REI Wealth.
REI Wealth. REI Wealth. Guys, it's going to be in the chat as soon as I spell wealth the right way. All right, that's the podcast that we can check out. And of course, if you have any questions, you can just reach out to me and I'll make sure you get his information. Billy, I got to say, I'm so thankful. I appreciate your expertise, the content. We had a lot of great nuggets there. A lot of experience will bring that. And especially your personality. It kind of teaches all of us that you have to be that person. You really have. We constantly preach it. You have to nurture relationships and create your network. You cannot hide behind a phone, and you got to just get out there. Wendy's a great example. I love it. Wendy would not say 2 words. Now, Wendy's constantly on camera. She's talking because she's getting out of her comfort zone. And Joe, by the way, I think he threw some nuggets there about the senior living. That's probably something you might want to take a look at, especially down in South Jersey. Billy, thank you so much for your time. I know it's very valuable. We so appreciate you. And hopefully this is not the last time that we're together.
For sure, guys. It's been a pleasure. If I can help out anybody, let me know. Joe, really good to see you. Kevin, Wendy, Jasmine, Joe, and I don't know who's on the end. It says Joe Azari, the Growth Collective.
I'm Joe's clone twin brother.
Joey's twin.
He's under my account. Okay, that's all good.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you, Billy. Many blessings, my friend.
Back at you, man. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Wow. Billy Alvaro is a spark plug. He is full of energy. We are waiting for Ron Leda to come in. Ron is our wholesale dispositions acquisitions manager. And if you have any questions regarding that, what I need to do now is it's 12:58. So I'm going to stop this broadcast and restart it. I believe it's the same link, but we're not going to be broadcasting into the Real Estate Investing Mastermind. So that's one of the main reasons why. So I'm going to do that now. So please jump back in. I'm sure you have the link and it should be the same. Let me see. Let me take a quick peek. If you haven't noticed, I'm crazy under the weather, very nasal. Alrighty, let's see. Wendy, Sean, Marlo, Larry, and then we have our staff members. And we're waiting for Ron to come in. If you got some questions regarding wholesale, Ron is the person to ask. He's actually down the boots on the ground kind of guy, and he can talk to you firsthand about that. So if you have some questions, let's get him out there. Ron should be joining us momentarily. All right, it's I forgot to verify. Let me take a quick peek now. Okay, ending in 5648, ending in, yep, same link. Cool. So you can get in via the same link. I'm going to stop this broadcast and restart it. Thank you.